Dear students of class 9th, I have created a one-shot video for you so that you can revise all the poems in one go. So watch this video till the end. Wish you all the best for your used repetition here. So repetition is when a word or phrase is written multiple times, usually for the purpose of emphasis. So here the poet has used repetition in the second line, that is ages and ages. So the poet has repeated the word ages here. Dear students, today I am here with the poem Wind. This poem has originally been written in Tamil by Subramanya Bharati and translated by A.K. Ramanujan. This poem is an example of modern poetry written in free verse with unequal and unrhyming lines. The poem consists of a total of 23 lines, and these lines are not separated into stanzas. But here in this video, I have divided it into meaningful segments to ease out comprehension. The first 4 lines of the poem go like this. Wind, come softly. Don't break the shutters of the windows. Don't scatter the papers. Don't throw down the books on the shelf. The poem opens with the poet's request to the wind. The poet is addressing it directly. He wants the wind to blow gently so that the shutters of the windows are not broken and the papers are not blown out, because the poet is a writer and he doesn't want his papers to scatter. The poet also urges the wind not to throw books down from the shelf. The next 4 lines go like this. There, look what you did. You threw them all down. You tore the pages of the books. You brought rain again. You are very clever at poking fun at weaklings. In these lines, the poet demonstrates the damage caused by the strong and fierce wind. It has thrown down all the books from the shelf and torn their pages. It causes the clouds to make rain. The poet believes that the wind, by destroying the weak things, seem to mock at their frailty and fragility. Here are the next 4 lines. Frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, crumbling hearts. The wind god winnows and crushes them all. These lines describe the havoc caused by a fierce wind. It destroys the inanimate things like weak houses, doors, rafters, wood, etc. Similarly, the difficulties of life discourage human beings. The poet regards the wind as a god who acts like a winnower and sorts and destroys everything that comes in his contact. Here come another 5 lines. He won't do what you tell him. So come, let's build strong homes. Let's joint the doors firmly. Practice to firm the body, make the heart steadfast. The poet believes that the wind god acts according to his own wishes and does not relent even when we people urge him. Therefore, it is essential to equip our buildings, our bodies, and our hearts with immense strength. The last 5 lines of the poem are, do this and the wind will be friends with us. The wind blows out weak fires. He makes strong fires roar and flourish. His friendship is good. We praise him every day. In these lines, the poet believes that if we are strong enough not to be shaken by the wind, it will become our friend. Here, wind stands for the hardships of life. These hardships can make only weak people stagger. The strong people become stronger by facing the difficulties. Just like the wind can extinguish only weak flames of fire, and the strong flames burn stronger still with a loud roar. If we befriend the wind, it will prove to be good for us. Now let me throw light on the literary devices used in the poem. Beginning with the rhyme scheme. The entire poem is written in free verse. It means there is no rhyme scheme followed in the poem. Then comes anaphora. Anaphora is when a word is repeated at the start of two or more consecutive lines. In this poem, you'll see lines 2, 3, and 4 begin with the word don't. And similarly, lines 6, 7, and 8 begin with the word you. So here the poet has used anaphora. Then comes personification. Wind has been personified. When the poet says you are, he is referring to wind as you. That means he is treating wind as a person. Next comes repetition. Crumbling word is repeated many times to lay emphasis. The poet wants to say that the wind crushes everything that is weak. That is why he keeps repeating the word crumbling. Then we have alliteration. Alliteration is repetition of consonant sound in close connections, and these consonant sound come in the beginning of the word. So we have wind, winnows, and won't, want. These are the two examples of alliteration from the poem. Next is symbolism. Symbolism means that the thing refers to some other thing. So wind is a symbol and it refers to the challenges in life. The poet is using wind as a symbol for the adversities in our life. Dear students, I'm back with another video on rain on the roof. This is the third poem of the Beehive book of class 9th. This poem has been written by Coach Skinner. It's a lyrical poem that presents the memories aroused in the poet's mind by the raindrops falling on the tin roof. So let's enjoy the showers of the rain through this lovely poem, Rain on the Roof. The first stanza of the poem goes like this. When the humid shadows hover over all the starry spheres, and the melancholy darkness gently weeps in rainy tears, what a bliss to press the pillow of a cottage chamber bed and lie listening to the patter of the soft rain overhead. In the stanza, the poet describes his experience of rain as he lies in a comfortable, leisurely mood in his cottage and listens to the soothing music made by the showers of rain falling overhead on the roof. The poet states that when the star-studded sky is thickly overcast with clouds, it leads to a gloomy darkness all around. The vapors condense to form clouds that produce gentle rain. According to the imagination of the poet, the raindrops are the tears shed by the dense and sad darkness. The poet considers it to be a heavenly, delightful experience to lie in the comfortable bed, pressing the head against a soft pillow and listening to the pattering sound of the showers of rain falling on the roof. Now let's move on to the second stanza, which goes like this. Every tinkle on the shingles has an echo in the heart, and 1,000 dreamy fancies into busy being start, and 1,000 recollections weave their air threads into woof as I listen to the patter of the rain upon the roof. In this stanza, the poet describes the impact of the music made by rain on his heart and mind. He remarks that the tinkling sound produced by the raindrops falling on the roof tiles cause a resonance in his heart. His heartbeats respond sensitively to every sound of the falling rain. In his much occupied mind, a large number of fanciful and imaginative ideas spring up. Innumerable memories of the past are revived and get entwined as if woven like a patchwork as he lies listening to the pattering sound of the raindrops. Now let's move on to the third stanza. Now in memory comes my mother as she used in years agone, to regard the darling dreamers. Oh, she left them till the dawn. Oh, I feel her fond look on me as I list to this refrain, which is played upon the shingles by the patter of the rain. Here, as the poet lies in his bed, listening to the soft pattering sound of the gentle rain falling on the roof, among many other memories, there emerges in his mind the memory of his mother. He vividly remembers how she used to look affectionately at her children before she went to her bed, leaving them for the night to meet again in the morning. As he listens to the music of the rain, he can still experience the loving look of his mother. In fact, the rainy night reminds the poet of the similar night during his childhood when his mother was alive and showered love on him and his siblings. Now, let me talk about the literary devices used by the poet. Beginning with the rhyme scheme of the poem, all the three stanzas follow the same rhyme scheme, that is A, B, C, B, D, E, F, E. In stanza 1, the poet has used alliteration. The first example is humid hover, so the H sound is being repeated. Then starry spheres, where the S sound is being repeated. We also have press pillow, the P sound. And at the end, lie listening. So here the L sound is being repeated. The poet has also used onomatopoeia with the word patter. It's the sound made by the raindrops falling on the rooftop. Then comes personification. So darkness has been personified when the poet says that it is sad. Transferred epithet has also been used by the poet, wherein the poet says melancholy darkness. So the darkness is not melancholy, but it refers to the sad people. In stanza 2, the literary devices that the poet has used are alliteration. In the words busy bee, the sound of B is being repeated. Then we have there and thread, the sound of TH is being repeated. Rain, roof, R sound. We also have onomatopoeia here with the words tinkle and patter, the sounds made by the raindrops. Personification is used in the word recollection, that is personified when he says that they weave dreams. Transferred epithet is used in the words dreamy fancies. So it does not mean that the fancies are dreamy, but refers to the people who have dreams. Finally, coming to stanza 3, we have alliteration being used here in the line memory my mother. So the M sound is being repeated. Then we have another alliteration in darling dreamers, the D sound. We also have onomatopoeia here where the poet has used patter, sound of raindrops falling on the shingles of the roof. Through this video, I'll be explaining you the poem The Lake Isle of Innisfree, taken from BEEHIVE book of class 9th. This is the 4th poem of the book. Watch the video till the end to understand the poem along with the literary devices used by the poet. The poet of The Lake Isle of Innisfree is William Butler Yeats, also known as W.B. Yeats. He was one of the greatest English language poets of the 20th century. He received the Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1923. He is also remembered as Ireland's national poet. Talking about the Lake Isle of Innisfree. Let me first tell you, Isle is basically a small island. So this Lake Isle of Innisfree is also an actual place within a lake in County Sligo in northwestern Ireland. This poem, The Lake Isle of Innisfree, that was written by W.B. Yeats in the year 1888, is a 12-line poem divided into 3 quatrains. This poem reveals the poet's nostalgia for peace and tranquility he enjoyed on the Lake Isle during his childhood days. So let's begin with the poem. The first stanza states, I'll arise and go now, and go to Innisfree, and a small cabin built there of clay and wattles made. 9 bean rows will I have there, a hive for the honey bee, and live alone in the bee-loud glade. If you see, this stanza opens abruptly and shows that the poet has a strong desire to go to the beautiful and calm Isle of Innisfree, which is situated in a lake in the county Sligo in Ireland. The poet declares that he will get up and leave for Innisfree, where he will build for himself a small cottage with clay and twisted sticks. He would like to be self-sufficient, so for that he will grow his own food. He imagines a garden with exactly 9 rows of beans, and he will also get honey from his own honeycomb. The poet wants to lead a solitary life with bees buzzing loudly in the open glade far away from the maddening crowd. Now let's move to stanza 2. And I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow, dropping from the vales of the morning to where the cricket sings. There midnights all a glimmer, and noon a purple glow, and evenings full of the linnet's wings. In these lines, we see that the poet wants to go to the Isle of Innisfree because he believes that he will enjoy complete peace on the beautiful island. Life there is calm and slow, opposite to the life in a city. In this island, peace prevails from morning till evening. We see that the poet is able to throw light on the different parts of the day. He says that in Innisfree, morning is calm, midnight is bright with the shine of the stars and moon. At the same time, noontime has a bright purple glowing light, probably with purple flowers all around. The evenings on the island are made beautiful by the fluttering wings of linnets. Here comes stanza 3, which goes like this. I'll arise and go now, for always day and night I hear the lake water lapping with low sounds by the shore. While I stand on the roadway or on the pavement's grey, I hear it in the deep heart's core. Here the poet repeats his initial desire to go to the lake Isle of Innisfree. He can hear the music produced by the waters of Innisfree all day and night. When the poet stands on the cemented roads or on the cold hard pavements amidst the traffic, he hears the sounds of the waves lapping on the shore in the depth of his heart. Let me now throw light on the literary devices used by the poet. Beginning with the rhyme scheme as usual, each stanza follows the same rhyme scheme, AB, AB. Then we have alliteration. Line 3 of the poem, a hive for the honey bee. The H sound is repeatedly used here. In line 10, the lake water lapping with low sounds. Here we see that the sound of L and W is being repeated. Then we have metaphor in the phrase veils of the morning. The veils are used for clouds in the morning sky or maybe the fog, so as these veils are lifted, the sun rises. Then we also have personification. In the same phrase, the veils of the morning, here morning is personified as a woman whose face is covered by a veil. The poet has made abundant usage of imagery in order to paint a picture of the place he desires to go. The first imagery that the poet has used is in the phrase veils of the morning. It refers to the morning sky with clouds. This appeals to our sense of sight. When we read the phrases midnight's all a glimmer, noon a purple glow, these create an image of a dreamland in our mind, where the sky is lit with stars at night and purple blossoms spread an ethereal beauty during the day. Then the lake water lapping appeals to our sense of hearing. We can hear the serene movement of the water. Is there any other device left? Well, yes, it is repetition. Line number 1 and 9. The expression, I will rise and go, has been repeated. It reflects his firm resolve to go to the place where he spent his childhood days. Similarly, in lines 5 and 6, the poet has repeated the words peace and dropping. Peace emphasizes calmness and dropping stresses the easy pace of things in nature. In line 10 and line 12, the poet uses repetition of the phrase I hear to bring out the deep yearning in his heart that pulls him to the Lake Isles of Innisfree. Dear students, today I have taken up the poem No Men Are Foreign written by James Kirkup. James Kirkup was a poet, playwright, novelist and a traveler. He was born on 23rd April 1918. He started his poetic career with short verses, haikus and tankas. He became a fellow of the Royal Society of Literature in 1962 and he died at the age of 91 on 10th May 2009. Have you ever thought of some people as strange or other countries as foreign? We have many ways to think of other people as different from us as them. They may belong to a different country or speak a different language. In this poem, No Men Are Foreign, however, the poet reminds us of the many ways in which we are all the same, for we are all human. James Kirkup has written this beautiful poem, No Men Are Foreign. This poem tells us that all the divisions based on nation, caste, color, creed or religion are baseless, since we all are similar in our basic need of the common resources for our life. We all have a common source of origin and we all are dependent on the same resources for our survival. We may belong to a different country and speak a different language, but we all enjoy the beauty of nature. In short, the poem is about the fact that all human beings are same. So let me begin with the stanza-wise explanation of the poem No Men Are Foreign. The first stanza goes like this. Remember, no men are strange, no country is foreign. Beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. Like ours, the land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. In this stanza, the poet emphasizes the value of universal brotherhood. The poet draws our attention to the absence of any differences amongst the people of different countries. He asks us never to forget that people living in other countries are not strange or unfamiliar. Under their different types of clothes, all human beings are same. All human bodies live and breathe in a same fashion. We are all brothers because we walk upon the same earth that we have divided into countries. We all shall meet the same earth in the end when we shall be buried in it after death. The second stanza says, they too, aware of sun and air and water, are fed by peaceful harvests, by war's long winter starved. Their hands are ours and in their lines we read a labor not different from our own. This stanza says that all the people of the world are nourished and nurtured equally by the elements of nature like sun, air and water. Everyone is united by the sameness of spirit. Like us, the people in other countries too enjoy the harvest in peaceful times and dread starvation caused by long drawn wars. They too toil to earn livelihood and their destiny is similar to ours. Stanza 3 says, remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep and strength that can be won by love. In every land is common life that all can recognize and understand. The poet asks us to remember that so-called strange and foreign people experience sleep and wakefulness just like us. Like us, they too can be won over by love and not by force. Their experiences of life are similar to that of ours. Hence, we all find something familiar in each other's life and identify with each other. Here comes the fourth stanza that says, "Let us remember whenever we are told to hate our brothers, it's ourselves that we shall dispossess, betray, condemn. Remember, we who take arms against each other." Here, the poet says, whenever we are asked by our leaders or rulers to hate and exploit the people of other countries, we must remember that this hatred would have a negative effect on us. We would find ourselves cheated, as it would deprive us of the bliss of universal brotherhood. We would condemn ourselves to a life of enmity and strangeness. The last stanza, that's the fifth stanza, says, "It is the human earth that we defile. Our hells of fire and dust outrage the innocence of air that is everywhere our own. Remember, no men are foreign and no country is strange." The poet again reminds us that war is futile, as it spoils the very earth for which we take up arms against each other. The deadly weapons emit fire and ashes that spread all over and pollute the environment. This robs the air of its purity and the world becomes a more difficult place to live in. It is therefore important not to consider any human being as foreign and any country as strange. We must build mutual respect and trust. Now let me talk about the literary devices that the poet has used. The first literary device that I usually talk about is rhyme scheme. This poem follows no rhyme scheme in particular, so hence it is written in free verse. Next we come to alliteration. Alliteration is the close repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of successive words. For example, a single body breathes. So the B sound is repeated at the beginning of each word. Then we see the phrase or sleep and strength. So the sound of S is being repeated here. Then the poet has also used metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech in which a word or phrase is used to describe an object or action through comparison. So when the poet says, "Beneath all uniforms a single body breathes," here, uniforms basically stands for militaries that different countries in the world have. These uniforms may have different color, design, shape and culture, but people donning them are the same anywhere in the world. Then when the poet talks about war's long winters starved, here the starvation experienced during unproductive and harsh winters describes the want and hunger faced during wartime. Both these conditions lead to ultimate destruction. The poet has used repetition in the poem as well. Poets often repeat single words or phrases. At times, the whole stanza is also repeated to create a musical effect, to emphasize a point or to draw the reader's attention. In No Men Are Foreign, James Kirkup repeats the word remember 5 times in the poem to emphasize the serious message the poem has to convey. Similarly, the last line of the stanza, "Remember, no men are foreign and no country strange," though reversed, is the same as first line of the first stanza that says, "Remember, no men are strange, no country foreign." This repetition emphasizes the core message of oneness of human beings. Today I am here with the explanation of the poem on killing a tree, and this poem has been written by Jeev Patel. Jeev Patel presents the sturdiness of a fully grown tree strengthened by nourishment. from the earth, the sun, and the air. The poem also depicts the survival instinct of a strong tree, which refuses to die even when its trunk and branches have been chopped off. The real strength and vitality of a tree lie in its deep roots. It's only when these roots wither that the tree loses its life. So the first stanza of the poem goes like this. It takes much time to kill a tree. Not a simple jab of the knife will do it. It has grown slowly, consuming the earth, rising out of it, feeding upon its crust, absorbing years of sunlight, air, water, and out of its leprous hide, sprouting leaves. In this stanza, the poet remarks that the process of the full growth of a tree is slow and steady. It consumes the nutrients from the earth, the sunlight, the air, and the water, and grows so strong that it cannot be killed easily. The stanza opens with the poet's statement that killing a tree is a long process which consumes a lot of time. The wounds inflicted on it with a knife or an axe cannot cause its death. The tree draws its nourishment from nature, which makes it so strong that it develops amazing self-healing powers. The bark of its trunk is discolored like the skin of a person suffering from leprosy. Still, new leaves and branches sprout from them. The second stanza says, So hack and chop, but this alone won't do it. Not so much pain will do it. The bleeding bark will heal, and from close to the ground will rise curled green twigs. Miniature boughs, which if unchecked, will expand again to former size. In these lines, the poet addresses a person who is trying to kill a tree. The poet empathetically states that attacking a tree and cutting off its trunk or branches cannot cause its death. The powerful blows of the axe can only give pain and scars to the tree, but not put an end to its life. The injured trunk, with the sap oozing from its wounded bark, will certainly heal with time. Even if the whole of the trunk is hacked, the stump close to the ground will sprout again, and small green curled branches will appear. These branches, if not hacked again, will grow till they attain the original size of the tree. Therefore, hacking may harm a tree for some time, but the tree has the potential to heal itself and regenerate into its former size. Now let's move on to stanza 3, which says, No, the root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It is to be roped, tied and pulled out, snapped out or pulled out entirely, out from the earth cave, and the strength of the tree exposed, the source white and wet, the most sensitive hidden for years inside the earth. Here the poet describes the actual process that can kill a tree. As axing and chopping cannot end the life of a tree, it is the root deep under the surface of the earth that needs to be attacked. The root is held tightly and supported by the nourishing earth, and it is not easy to destroy it. It has to be either pulled out with great force or to be cut into pieces and then taken out of the depth of the earth. For pulling it out, people have to tie it firmly with ropes and then apply great force to completely uproot it. In fact, the real strength of a tree lies in its roots, which remains wet and white deep under the earth. However, it cannot tolerate exposure to the sunlight or heat. The fourth stanza says, Then the matter of scorching and choking in sun and air, browning, hardening, twisting, withering, and then it's done. The poet in this stanza describes how an uprooted tree ultimately dies. The scorching heat of the sun and exposure to the air smother the root of the tree. However, it does not die at once. It grows brown. Its soft white wood hardens, the hardened root gets twisted, and eventually it withers away absolutely, completing the process of tree's death. Let me now throw light on the literary devices used by the poet. Beginning with the rhyme scheme, The poem has been written in free verse. There is no rhyme scheme and the length of the lines varies. At the same time, you'll see that the stanzas are also of unequal length. The second literary device that the poet has used is alliteration. Alliteration, as you know, it's the repetition of the sounds at close intervals. It's used to land a lyrical or musical element to the poem. So the first example is the bleeding bark will heal. So here the sound of B and L is being repeated. At the same time, the second example that says the source white and wet. So the sound of W is repeated here. Let me now move on to the third literary devices, that is metaphor. And you know, metaphor is the comparison between two unlike things without the use of word like and as. So the first example is the bleeding bark. Here the word bleeding is a metaphor. The poet compares the sap oozing out of the bark of a hacked tree trunk to the blood of a human being or a living creature, but does not use the word of comparison. Then we see the second example, that is leprous hide. Here, the uneven, discolored bark of a tree is compared to the discolored and gnarled skin of a person suffering from leprosy. But the poet again does not use the word like or as here. So it is a metaphor. Next literary device is repetition. Repetition, as you know, is using a word, phrase or clause a number of times with the purpose of laying emphasis or to provide unity to the poem. So here is the example where we can see repetition. The root is to be pulled out of the anchoring earth. It's to be roped, tied and pulled out, snapped out or pulled out entirely out from the earth cave. So here we see the word out, and the phrase pulled out is used again and again to emphasize the effort involved in uprooting a tree and exposing its root. It shows that the root of the tree is deeply fixed into the earth. Next literary device that the poet has used is enjambment. Enjambment, as you know, when one line of the poetry rolls on to the next line without any pause marked by a comma or a full stop. So in this poem, there is enjambment in almost every stanza. So here is the first example. Here there is no punctuation mark at the end of the first and the second line. The first line rolls on to the second line and the second line is carried on to the third line. Here again, in this pair of line, again you'll see that the first line moves on to the second line without any comma or full stop at its end. Then we have the third example where miniature bows, which if unchecked will expand again to form a size. In these lines, full stop comes at the end of the third line. The first line rolls into the second and the second rolls into the third line. Now let me talk about the title of the poem. The title of the poem is simple and appropriate as it contains the major concern of the poet, merciless and callous felling of trees. It indicates appropriately that the poem is about the process of killing of tree. The entire poem explains the view that killing a tree is not a simple, short or easy process. Trees have tremendous strength and great instinct for survival. Talking about the message that we get from the poem conveys the message that trees are living beings just like any other form of life. They have strong survival instinct and can withstand any type of assault, trauma or crisis. It's not easy to kill them, for they have a never say die attitude to life. Every time they are attacked, injured or scraped, they heal themselves and regain their glory. However, if they are uprooted and left in the air and the sun, they die. We human beings must live just as trees do. Dear students, today I am here with the poem A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal. This is written by William Wordsworth and this is one of the Lucy poems that he had written. Now what are these Lucy poems? Well, these poems have been dedicated to his beloved. In this poem, the poet refers to death, which is a permanent sleep. The poet did not realize when his beloved Lucy slept forever, that is, she died, because he had taken life for granted and realized this harsh truth of life only after her death. Before we move ahead, let's look at the title of the poem. What's the title? A Slumber Did My Spirit Seal. Well, this is derived from the opening line of the poem. The title refers to the drugged, drowsy, nearly unconscious and unaware state of the poet's mind so far as his attitude towards the young Lucy was concerned. He had become completely forgetful that, like all human beings, one day Lucy too would be subjected to old age and death. However, the death of Lucy has awakened him to the bitter truth of life, its ultimate end in death. Here is the poem explanation. The first four lines of the poem go like this. A slumber did my spirit seal. I had no human fears. She seemed a thing that could not feel the touch of earthly ears. Here there are only two words which are different. One is slumber, which means sleep, and the other is spirit, which is the soul. So the poet's soul has drifted into deep sleep as he did not have any realization of the truth. He had taken life for granted and had never thought that one day death would take Lucy away from him. When she was taken away, he could not bear the loss. The next four lines of the poem go like this. No motion has she now, no pores, she neither hears nor sees, rolled round in earth's diurnal course with rocks and stones and trees. So here we see the word diurnal. Diurnal means daily. So earth's diurnal course means earth's daily rotation on its axis. So the poet accepts the truth that Lucy is no more alive and she is motionless, lifeless. She cannot see nor hear. She has been buried in the earth. She will assimilate into the earth and is rotating along with the earth. One day, she will become one with the rocks, stones, and trees that are the part of the earth. Now, let's have a look at the literary devices. The first and the foremost is, as usual, the rhyme scheme, that is AB, AB, CD, CD. Okay. Second is alliteration. So alliteration, as you all know, is a poetic device in which the poet repeatedly uses the sound at close intervals with the purpose of making the poem lyrical. So the first example is, a slumber did my spirit seal. So the sound of S is being repeated here. The second one is, rolled round in earth's diurnal course. So here we see the sound of R, L and D being repeated. It can also be called as consonants. Next literary device is the enjambment. It is a literary device in which a line does not have a comma or a full stop at the end and the line rolls on to the next line without any punctuation mark. For example, these two lines. So here the first line carries on to the second line, and similarly these two lines, here also there is no comma or full stop and the first line moves on to the next line. Then the poet also uses repetition. So it is the repetition of words, phrases or clauses which is used to emphasize some point or make the line musical. So the poet uses a lot of negatives here. For example, no, nor, neither. The repetition shows that Lucy, being dead, is deprived of certain faculties. They convey the idea of negation of life, that is, death. That's all for today. In case of any doubts or queries, you can drop us a message on Instagram, or you can also drop them in the comment section below. I'll revert to them as soon as possible. See you in the next video. Till then.